have this on. Part of the reason why you take Tai Chi class is for self-care. You know, you're taking care of yourself. And so that's a choice that I think us, where we as women have to especially, be conscious of, because we're naturally caregivers for everybody else. And we always put ourselves to the, back, to the back, to the back. And so I like that messaging of I love me and I'm doing this because I love me. I want to take charge of my life and I want to be able to do things. And so we have our limitations, and that kind of changes as we get older. Sometimes it's physical limitations, sometimes it's mental limitations, sometimes it's time constraints. Sometimes it's technology, isn't it, Miss Linda? In the name of trying to make things easy, sometimes it's still not easy. With that being said, we don't have class next week because I will be at a conference talking about teaching this class on the Claris. So we will not have class until for 2 weeks, so September the 23rd. And September the 23rd is or not September 23rd, the week of September 23rd. So I guess technically starting September 21st is Falls Prevention Week. And so we're going to make an even more of an effort to pledge to ourselves and in the name of preventing falls and things that we can do to prevent falls. So we'll be talking about that alongside of our Tai Chi in 2 weeks when we return. So the special treat that you get today is that you get to experience seated Tai Chi. Now, you don't have to sit down if you don't want to. You can stay standing, and I will still give instruction for standing. But I have done something to my foot, and I wish I either had a better story or I could easily make up a really good story. But I don't know what's wrong with my foot. All I know is it hurts and it's really swollen. And I didn't do anything except, there was no like injury. There was nothing that happened for it to hurt. So we're hoping that will get better very quickly. And huh?
I said, yes, we do.
This is just not the life for me. And I feel like I'm being like so super challenged. I went to the doctor on Friday and I was just having a fabulous day. The weather's kind of changing, so it's a little bit cooler. And so I'm starting to feel alive again, not like I'm heating to death or melting. And so I went to the doctor, and the doctor was asking me, how are you? How's everything? And I was like bragging, like how great and wonderful life is, and how, I feel so good, and I have energy, and I sleep good, and, just bragging, bragging, bragging on how great life is. And after I left that doctor's office, I said to myself, that was dangerous. I probably shouldn't have said all that wonderful stuff because for sure something bad is going to happen. I'll be dog if Sunday afternoon I sat down, I was like, my foot hurts. And my foot hurts. So, we get humbled sometimes. We don't need to get full of ourselves and think life is just so wonderful. But did I call into work? No. Did I skip the gym? No. I still went to the gym. I just rode the bike. It's free. And so I rode the bike for exercise. That's not what I normally do, but I still stay committed. I just had to modify. And that's the lesson of today's Tai Chi is modify. This program was created by Dr. Lamb to be modified, and it's modifiable for whatever our needs are. And so seated Tai Chi is part of that. And so I have my chair set. I can walk on my foot. I just don't have any business transferring weight like we normally do in Tai Chi. So I'm not faking, I promise. I'm not faking. I would much rather teach standing Tai Chi than seated. But I'm taking it as a good opportunity to teach seated Tai Chi. So, and also to let y'all know, I put this sweatshirt on because I have on overalls underneath. Just before class, one of my buttons on the side just popped off. So, and I can't find a safety pin to safety pin it back together. So I had to put on a sweatshirt so you didn't see half my body hanging out from no button. So there's another example of regroup and keep going, right? I'm trying to be an example for y'all that things happen in life and we just keep on going. So let's get started just like we always do with our Tai Chi. Is just walking in place, open and closing our hands. So whether you're standing or seated, your goal is just to get the blood flowing, get your body warmed up. And as a seated Tai Chi person, I'm just barely taking my feet off the floor. Because if I were to really lift those knees off the floor and do a big march, that would start wearing out my hips. That's pretty hard work. So if even a small march is too much, then do something like this, like tap your toe, tap your heel, one at the time, do them together. You're just trying to get circulation going. But I'm just doing a really mini march. I have scooted up into my chair to where my feet are grounded on the floor. And I have that upright posture. So I'm not just like leaned back in my easy chair, or totally relaxed. I'm utilizing my core muscles to support my body upright. Personally, I think seated Tai Chi in some ways is more challenging than standing Tai Chi. So it's really challenging for my brain because I don't typically do standing Tai Chi or seated Tai Chi. But we're going to do it today, so you'll get to experience that. I know it's probably been a couple years ago, Miss Linda, you'll remember, where we did a lot more seated Tai Chi because our group wanted that. And so this is nothing new for you. But even seated, just like we talked about last week, we want to keep our principles in mind. The principles of slow, smooth, continuous, gentle resistance, upright posture as I fix my posture, weight transfer, or we'll talk about that with pushing our feet into the floor, and then the internal experience of song, which is open joints, and jing, which is mental quietness. We probably won't get a lot of that today. So as I'm walking in place, I tell you, seated marching in place wears me out so much faster than standing and marching in place. Just the position of our bodies will tell you that. So pretend I'm going to raise my knee up this high or even this high. Standing, that means I would look like this, my leg going up this high as I march. And so that's utilizing different muscles than if I were to just march in place like this, right? So that's why I think one reason why seated Tai Chi is more difficult. So let's go to our warm-up stretches. Again, our feet are grounded If you are seated, my feet are still shoulder width apart, and that's the way it is if you're standing. We're going to have our hands to our side, and you remember me talking about how if you have issues with stamina or endurance, then these are the first 6 or 3 major joints in our warm-ups are to do those seated, and then stand up when we get to the movements that involve our hips and our knees and even our ankles, but really mainly our hips and knees. We want to try to do those standing if possible, even though there are ways to do it seated. So we'll talk about that. So again, if endurance is an issue, doing these first 3 major joints seated is a good place to start because there's no footwork. We're simply grounding our feet, keeping our feet engaged to the floor, and there's no leg movement. So starting with our neck, our hands are to our side. We're going to bring our hands up, palms down. Turn and pull them towards our chin and chest. Turn and push them away from us and follow those hands all the way down, chin towards our chest. So it's the same thing if you're standing. It's a simple head movement, chin going towards our chest, feeling a slight stretch in the back of our neck. Slow, smooth, continuous, and continuing to breathe. Our other neck exercise starts that same way. Take one hand to our hip and follow the other one as we look towards our shoulder, back to the front. You don't have to go as far as you can go. Just go until you feel a slight stretch. And then back to the front. Check in with your breath. Make sure you're not holding your breath. If you're deep breathing, great. But as long as you're continuing to breathe and just not holding your breath. Tell you what, this feels so good. I get stuck on here and I forget that we got to move on to the next part. Hands to our side. Let's roll our shoulders forward. Small circles. And back. Forward and back. Big shoulder circle. Hands up, palms up, turn and push down in front of us. Again, reminding ourselves to breathe. Inhale up, exhale down. For our spine. So we have our ball here, And we're going to separate the heavens and the earth. One hand goes down and the other follows that spine up and pushes up towards the ceiling. Notice there's still that soft bend in my elbow. I'm not completely straightening my arms. That's a song or an open joint. And we're stretching our spine, not our arms. Inhale as you come to the ball and exhale as you separate. Remember, if you have problems with shoulder mobility, so if you're not able to push that hand above your head like that, do what you can. I mean, even if it's lower, or you can go to the, I call it the stretchy string, where you stay right here, pulling that string and thinking about stretching that back, and then come, switch, and stretch that spine. So engage those muscles in your back and stretch as you separate those hands, whether it's with the stretchy string or whether you go from the ball and separate that way. Whatever works for you. Listen to your body and do what you need to do. Sometimes we have to push through discomfort, but we don't want any kind of sharp pain. We want to modify if there's a sharp pain. And sometimes there's just all-out inability. You know, sometimes you just can't. All right, other exercise for our spine involves the ball, and we're going to stretch our spine horizontally, so side to side. The hand that's on top dictates our direction. So this hand's on top, I'm going that way. So it's a short trip. I went from right here in the middle to just above that leg, and then I'm switching my hands. Come back across, and I stop just above that leg and switch. So it's a really short trip. Now, I probably should have made everybody sit down in that first class and experience this movement seated. Because doing this movement seated helps you understand just how small the movement is and what it feels like when you come out of your frame. So if you turn too far, then you start feeling your butt come off the chair and you're kind of coming out of your chair when you start going too far. And so that reminds you how small that turn is. And so I think we're accustomed to thinking bigger is better. And we think, well, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it twice. Or if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it big. But it is really small. So with that movement in mind, today, I told you we were going to start learning our movement that's called waving hands in clouds. And it may take us a few weeks to really grasp waving hands in clouds. It's a very dynamic movement. This spinal stretch or spinal warm-up is a perfect introduction to waving hands in clouds. So here we have our ball, and we're going to the side, following the hand that's on top, switching our hands, and coming back across. In waving hands in clouds, it's very similar. It's that torso movement that's going side to side, and it's really small. It's staying within our frame. Our hands just look a little different. So this hand is down here. It's engaged. It's beside my hip, and the other hand is kind of cross body, like a sash. My palm is facing away from me. And now I'm going to turn, going in the direction of the hand that's on top, just like in our spinal warm-up. So just to go ahead and show you this, now I'm going to turn, and then I'm going to switch. Turn, switch. So see how similar that is to the spinal warm-up. All of our warm-ups are to get us ready for our Tai Chi series of movements, and this one could just not be more clear on what movement it gets us ready for. So here we have the spinal warm-up with the ball, hand on top, tells us the direction we're going, and then waving hands in clouds, hands on top, that's the direction we go, and then we switch our hands. So our spine should be really warmed up by the time we get done with this right here. But I wanted to go ahead and show you that. So when we get to that movement closer to the end of class, then you see the relationship between our warm-up and that one. All right, so we've done 2 for our neck, 2 for our shoulders, and now 2 for our spine. And those are the ones that I was talking about that can easily be done seated because there's no leg movement, and then we can stand up and do the rest. But I'm not standing up. I'm going to stay seated. In terms of leg movement, you know, we do want to be able to have our feet attached to the floor. So for this movement, for our hip, we will, if we're standing, we're going to shift the weight to one foot. We're going to place our heel forward and our hands back. We're going to pause in the middle, and then we're going to put our toe back, hands forward. And that's where we put our toe back like a kickstand at an angle. Why am I not doing it seated? Is because if I do it seated, then you see I could easily fall out of my chair in this position. So that's just not a good stable position to be in. So standing, you do that. And when we do our standing movement, we typically will do 3 in a row. So heel forward, hands back, pause in the middle, toe back, hands forward. We do 3 in a row. Then we shift the weight, then we do 3 in a row on the other side. That helps you practice endurance of one leg. Another way to do that movement is to shift weight and change legs each time. And that's how we do it whenever we're seated. So if you were to do it standing, you would shift to one leg, heel forward, hands back, pause in the middle, toe back, hands forward, come back to center, shift the weight, and then switch legs. So you're doing a lot more weight transfer whenever you do one leg at the time, and then the other way you're practicing more endurance. Both are right. You can do both. You can choose your favorite, however you want to do it. But seated, we do switch foot back and forth. So however you choose to do it, go right ahead. Here we go. The seated version is heel forward, hands back, and then we come to center and we stay here. We can place our hands up while we shift weight or go to the other leg. Heel, pause, hand forward while we shift. Okay, so what am I talking about shift? Well, shift when we're seated means push that foot into the floor. I find whenever I'm seated and I push my foot into the floor, it is like a stabilizer or a cane or a pole that's holding me and making it easier for me to move my other leg. Versus if I don't push that other foot into the floor, I'm having to use a whole lot more strength on the leg that's moving. So try it and see the difference. Just how meaningful pushing that foot into the floor to be your stabilizer or your pole or your cane while you move this other leg. It makes it easier. And so you're engaging muscle to get those muscles stronger, and then you're helping yourself out with the foot that's moving. So shifting weight, that's what I mean by shifting weight. Shifting weight by pushing that foot into the floor. heel out, hands back, come back to center, hands forward while I shift the weight, heel forward, hands back, pause in the middle, shift the weight, heel forward, hands back. You tell I'm not real practiced, right? I'm getting better at it though. This is my third class teaching seated. Yesterday, I blew my own mind trying to figure it out because I'm so out of practice of doing seated Tai Chi. But you don't even have to push that opposite leg really hard into the floor. Just a little bit of pressure there, and it helps with the movement of that other foot. All right, so that is the first hip exercise for our warm-up stretches. The next one for our hip is the one where if we're standing, we shift weight to one leg, we have our hands stacked, we take them in the direction of the weight shift, stopping at the frame of our body, and then we tap our foot out, bring it back, switch our hands, shift the weight or push the foot into the floor, shift, and then tap out. Now, if you're seated, you can do that. You can tap your foot out, but that may cause problem for your hips. And if it does, then another modification would be this, where we shift the weight to one leg, take the hand in the direction of the weight shift, and you see this, I'm laying my knee out. And so I'm just laying my knee out, and that is stretching this hip flexor right here. So I have weight shift, lay that knee out, or step out, whichever one you're wanting to do. Shift the weight, lay that knee. Bring it back, switch my hands, shift the weight, and lay the knee. So whichever way you're doing it, this is our second hip warm-up.
I went out for a while.
Uh-oh, well I see both of y'all's screens are black, but I thought maybe y'all had...
I don't know what happened.
Huh.
But I'm back now.
All right, well, good deal. Well, we're on our second hip stretch. So any questions about those two hip stretches? Because they're a little different than our standing ones. But there's similarity enough and reasons why we don't do it exactly that way. Because stepping out, that may hurt your hip. Some people, you know, my hip will pop out of place. So too much of this movement doesn't feel good on my hip, but laying my knee to the side feels like a better stretch for me. So those are modifications. The next two are for our knees. Now, you notice I scooted back in my chair. Now, I'm still having that upright posture. My feet are engaged in the floor pretty good. I'm short, so I'm not as grounded as if I were in the front of my seat. But why I scooted back is so that the chair will support the top part of my leg. As we go into our knee movement, so we have our fist. This is just like when we stand up. If we're standing, we shift to one leg, we lift the other, we tap our toe out, and we punch the opposite hand out. And then we switch, shift, lift, tap, and punch. All right, so that's an easier way for me to do that seated. If I were to scoot up in my chair, shift the weight or push that foot into the floor, lift, tap, bring it back, then I have to use a lot more muscle in that leg because I'm having to use my own muscle to lift this whole leg up and take that foot out. Whereas if I was back here, then I'm only have to lift up this bottom part of my leg because the chair is holding the top part. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, do it and you'll see the difference. Lifting that whole leg where you're having to use your whole muscle to lift that foot out as you tap. So, however you choose to do it, standing or seated, you shift the weight or you push that foot into the floor, lift the other foot, point and tap. Bring it back, shift, lift, tap and punch, bring it back. So I'm putting my toe out there. Same thing, I say lift and tap, because if you're standing, you can kind of tap your foot out. You don't have to lift it very far off the ground. As you get stronger, you can pretend there's a cup out there and you're tapping on top of it. Our other knee exercise, see if we're standing, what we do is shift the weight. We step out, a small step. We give weight to that front foot, keeping both feet flat on the floor. And then we shift to the back foot, feet side by side. Shift, step out with the other foot, shift forward and back, feet side by side. That's the standing version. Seated version, we're not going to step out of our chair because we want to stay in our chair. So what you do instead is shift weight or push one foot into the floor. And this time, instead of putting your toe out, you'll put your heel out and then punch that opposite hand. Bring it back, shift the weight, put the heel out as I punch. Bring it back, shift, lift, heel out, and punch. If you're standing, you can do that step out, shift front, shift back, feet side by side, shift. So I'm giving you lots of options today, especially demonstrating this seated version of Tai Chi. Out of necessity for myself. Alright, so that gives you a different experience with your knees. Like I said, with that first one, if you scoot back in your chair and let the chair support your upper thigh, that makes it a little easier. If you're more in the front of your chair and having to lift your whole leg, then that is more difficult. So you have some choices. Lastly is our ankles. Now if you're standing, if you're standing, there is no arm movement. There's no arm movement if you're seated. It's all about your ankles. If you're standing, you shift weight to one leg, and then you go heel, toe, heel, toe. If you're seated, that toe is kind of an awkward position. So what you can do is put your foot in the air. You notice I scoot back in the chair. So I can lift my foot and go heel, toe, switch my feet, heel, toe, heel, toe. So I'm just doing it in the air. And you wouldn't do it this way standing, but seated, it's more comfortable than if your foot were on the ground. Heel, toe. And then the other one for our ankle is big toe, little toe. And again, if you're seated, it's kind of an awkward position to be in to do that on the ground. So you can do it in the air, big toe, little toe, big toe, little toe. If you are seated, you can move your ankles all kinds of ways. You can make the full circle, one at a time. You could do windshield wipers, heel toe, big toe, little toe. You know, you can make the full range of motion of your ankle joint, which I highly recommend if you're ever seated to just throw in some ankle movement for mobility, reducing the tension that's in that joint or stiffness. It can help keep you upright because the joint will be able to absorb, you know, movement if it has movement. If it's stiff, then you're going to be more likely to fall. So whenever you can, seated, just do some ankle circles. Move that ankle joint all the ways that it can move to help with the increase in flexibility of that joint. You know, we take that ankle joint for granted. So we want to do these simple movements. You can do both at the same time if you want. I just like doing one at a time. So those are your warm-ups all done seated. So what y'all think about that? Y'all, that gives you a different option. I find it to be way more tiring to do seated Tai Chi. All right. What we're going to do is go through our movements that we have already learned. We have learned commencement, we've learned open and close, and single whip. I started talking about waving in clouds last week and encouraged you to do Tai Chi walking and to practice the empty step before the weight shift. So I encouraged you to do Tai Chi walking forward, specifically in your home, because in public you might get weird looks and you might get run over for going so slow. So I like this done in the privacy of your home where you're maybe safer to step empty, then shift. Step empty, then shift. And walk in your space, Tai Chi walking. So that's Tai Chi walking forward. But waving hands in clouds, and what I encouraged you to do, was Tai Chi walking to the side, where you step, shift, follow step, shift, step, shift, step. So I can't step in a chair, but walking sideways with the practice of the empty step and the follow step. So if you're practiced in that, then you're ready for waving hands in clouds. We've already talked about in our warm-up the movement of waving hands in clouds. Here, here. So you're familiar with the pieces and parts of waving hands in clouds, but it really takes a while to get it together because there's all of it's happening at the same time. Suddenly you feel like you have, 10 extra arms and legs, and you don't know what any of them is supposed to be doing. So that's the direction we're going, is completing our basic 6 movements. So let's go back through with commencement, because now you're seeing it from a seated position facing you where I'm not turned around. And so I'm going to talk you through it if you are standing. We know that commencement is a step forward if we're standing. So we shift right. We place the left foot out. we shift left, then we bring the right foot forward and adjust our weight to where there's weight on both feet. So the footwork for commencement is a step forward. Shift right, place left, shift left, bring that right foot forward. Handwork of commencement. Our hands start out at our sides. Remember, in commencement, our hands face each other the whole time. We bring those hands up, out, away from us, but our arms are not Frankenstein arms. They have that soft, open joint. We bring those hands down towards our hips, up our body, away from our body, and then back in with our fingers pointed up for open and close. So again, commence up, down, towards our hips, up our body, away, back in, and then the second move, open and close. So if you're standing, let's put it together where we bring our hands up, down, shift right. Place the left foot out, hands come in and up, hands go out. Oh, hands go out as we shift left. Hands come, hold on. I did so good at this morning. Hands come up, down, shift right. I got to close my eyes and envision it. Hands up, down, shift right. Place your left foot forward, hands come in and up. Shift left as those hands go out. Right foot forward, hands come back, open and close. There it is. And notice I just kind of picked up my feet just slightly. I'm not actually stepping. I'm going through those motions for the sake of my brain, really. So we bring our hands up, down, shift right. Place left, hands come in and up. Shift left as the hands go out, right foot forward, hands come back, open and close. So with my feet seated, I can do several different ways. I can shift right by pushing my right foot into the floor when I would be shifting if I were standing. Same thing with left. If I shift left when I'm standing, then I release my right leg and push my left foot into the floor. And then when I come back for open and close, I release both of my legs. So in that way, I would be pushing my foot into the floor for quite some time before I push the other leg into the floor, and you keep it there until you're ready to release both. So that's one way of doing it. So we can practice that where we come up, down, push right, hands come in, up. Now push left as my hands go out, bring it in. Now release both and open and close. So that was a push right and a push left, and it was a little bit of an extended push. So that's one way to do it, and you're in charge of how hard you push into the floor. So the harder you push, the more engaged or tired out you're going to get, quite possibly. You don't have to just ram trying to push through the floor, but just to engage that muscle and be a stabilizer for the other movements. All right, so another way you can do leg work while you're seated is to pump. So push right, push left, push right, push left, push right, push left. So I'm just basically push, push, push. I mean, a little bit quick. And it doesn't have anything to do with weight transfer of our standing movements, okay? That's just a rhythm and engaging of leg muscle. So if I'm doing it that way, then it looks like commence up, and I push left, down, right, in. So each change of my arms, I'm changing the foot that's pushing into the floor. So when I come up, I push left. When I come down, I push right. When I come in, I push left. When I come up, I push right. When I go out, I push left. And then I come back and release both for open and close. Lots of choices in ways to do these movements. And so pick whatever feels most comfortable for you. Try all of it, to switch it up and try different things. I like the pumping. I don't push very hard. I'm just basically keeping my legs moving as I come through that movement. Release and open, close. And just then when I opened, I felt myself push both feet into the floor. And then when I came back closed, I released both feet. So sometimes your body kind of takes over and finds its own rhythm with pushing feet into the floor or muscle engagement. So explore that a little bit. Another option altogether is no leg movement. So don't push your leg into the ground at all. Pretend you don't even have legs. So in that instance, we're just doing the upper body movement. Nothing's happening with our legs other than the fact that our feet are connected to the ground. So we have up, down, in, up, out, back in, open and close. All right, single whip. So standing single whip, we shift left, we step our right foot out with an empty step into a staggered stance. We push our hands out and adjust the weight to where there's weight on both legs. Turn our hands and separate, eyes following the hand opposite of the foot that steps out. And then bring that foot back and the hand back. That gets us ready for waving hands and clouds. So the other way too, for our single whip, coming from open and close, we shift right, step out left, push as I adjust the weight, turn, separate, eyes follow the hand opposite of the foot that stepped out. And so when I say adjust weight, it means give weight to both feet. So I'm going from a weight shift to an empty step to go into that staggered stance for single whip. And when I say just weight, it's giving weight to both feet. As I separate, and then again, my eyes follow the hand that's opposite of the foot that stepped out. All right, so let's put those together. That commencement, open and close, and then our first single whip. So from the top, see I got me a good posture. I'm moving up in my chair, engaging my core muscles. I'm breathing and commence. Hands come up, down, in, up, out, and in, open, close. Shift, step, push, turn, separate. Shift, right foot, right hand back. So I was just pumping my legs to engage those muscles. But again, like I said, you can pretend you don't have legs and you don't have to do anything with them. Just go through the upper body movement. Again, commence. Up, down, shift right. Place left, hands come in and up. Shift left as they go out, right foot forward, hands come back, open and close. Single whip, shift left, step right, push and adjust, turn, separate, eyes follow that left hand. Bring that right foot, right hand back. Gets us ready for waving hands and clouds. So last week you took notes on principle. This week I want you to add to your notes, and this is the wording for waving hands and clouds. So we have 4 words. We have step, switch, turn, shift. Step and shift are our footwork. Switch and turn is our upper body handwork. So when I talk to you about Tai Chi walking, so step, empty, so step out, step empty, and then shift weight. Then we step, step empty, then shift the weight. So that's what I was talking about, that Tai Chi walking, giving empty step, no weight to the step immediately, and then giving it weight. So those 2 words are our lower body movements. The other 2, switch and turn. Switch, change hands, and then turn or wave. And so that's what I was talking about when I showed you, went from our ball spinal warm-up movement to the other, where one was down by my hip and the other was cross body. And then I turned in the direction of the hand that's on top, and then I switched to where that hand was down by my hip and the other hand was cross body. So these are our waving hands and clouds words. Step, switch, turn, shift. So this little cheat sheet is always right in front of me on that piece of paper. I've had it around so long that this thing lost sticky and I had to add tape. So what does that look like in practice, those words I just went through? So we just finished the single whip. We brought the right foot, right hand back. Now we're ready for the first word, step. That's when I step out. If I'm seated, I may just lift my foot and put it back down, push my foot into the floor on the weight shift. But I step, then I switch my hands, and then I turn. Then I shift the weight, step, switch, turn. So this is going to be much better whenever my foot is all better and I can do the movement standing. It'll be a lot easier to follow. But for the sake of seated, we can just practice the upper body of turn, switch, turn, switch, turn, switch. So it's called waving hands and clouds, but my hand is just going along for the ride. My hand's not waving. My hand's in one place and my body moves my hand over. So make sure you're moving your body, not your hand. Your hand's moving because your body's moving, because your hand is attached to your body. So practice that turn, switch, turn, switch. So I actually like that this movement is done strictly seated today, because waving hands and clouds, y'all might not think it's complicated now, because, it's just 4 words. How could it possibly be complicated? But when you start putting it together, it's definitely challenging. So I encourage you to practice both parts of waving hands and clouds. The part where you step and shift, step empty, then shift, step empty, then shift. So you're Tai Chi walking to the right, and then Tai Chi walk to the left. So practice Tai Chi walking both sides, and then practice seated, turn, switch, turn, switch, turn. That was a little bit fast. So stay in the slow, smooth, continuous. But practice both parts of it. And we're going to be putting it together. So again, no class next week. So you'll have some time to work on those parts to waving hands and clouds. And so when we come back together, then, you'll have some familiarity with the parts of the movement. Remember, no class. I've said that at least 5 times. And then it's going to be Falls Prevention Week in 2 weeks when we come back. And so we'll be pledging to ourselves to do what we can to prevent falls. Any questions about anything we've done today? I hope you're challenged in a good way. Maybe you never will do seated Tai Chi, but at least you know that you have some options and modifications in the seated position. As always, we cool down by giving ourselves a nice fist massage, telling our legs, thank you for working so hard. And then we purposely gather tension and then intentionally let it go. And it feels so much better to let that go. Gather, release. Gather, release. Notice tension when you're carrying it, and then let it go. Tense and relax. Shoulder circle, hands up. Turn and push down. Hands up. Push down. Hands up. And push down. Then we have our right fist, or our faux right fist, since I'm in mirror image, representing our strength. Come closer to the camera. My left hand, my fingers together, representing our friendship. Our thumb in our humility. And we put those together in mutual respect. We say, namaste.
Namaste.
So 2 weeks, y'all, but I'm still going to be working. I'll still have access to email. If you call me and leave me a message, even if I'm not here, it goes to my email. So if you need me, just call, okay? And I'll do whatever I can to help you. So just stay in touch. And if not, I'll see you in 2 weeks, okay?
Okay.
All right. Love y'all.
Love you too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.